the zombie game that refused to die. There's something weirdly special about games that were never supposed to last this long. Not AAA games, not billion-dollar franchises. I'm talking about those games you downloaded when you were like 13 because they were free, and somehow they became a core memory. For a lot of people, that game was Unturned. A free zombie survival game with Roblox-looking graphics, janky combat, weird animations, and servers full of absolute chaos. And somehow, it worked. Because while every other survival game was trying to be realistic, cinematic, or the future of gaming, Unturned was just fun. And against all odds, it survived longer than most of the games that were supposed to kill it. Back in the mid-2010s, survival games were everywhere. Every week there was a new open-world zombie survival crafting experience. Most of them disappeared instantly, but Unturned exploded. And the craziest part is that it was made by basically one guy, Nelson Sexton. He started developing the game as a teenager, not a studio, not a company backed by investors, just a kid making a zombie game because he loved survival games. And somehow, he created one of the most successful free-to-play games on Steam. And it's peak. Unturned has hundreds of thousands of players. Not because it looked good, not because it had insane graphics, but because it understood something a lot of games forget. Players care more about memorable experiences than realism. If you've ever played Unturned, you already know this game was pure unpredictability. You could spawn in, find a baseball bat, meet a random dude, become best friends for 20 minutes, and then get shot in the back over a can of beans. That was the gameplay loop. And honestly, that's why people loved it. Because Unturned wasn't really about zombies. The zombies were just there to pressure players into interacting with each other. The real game was human behavior, trust, greed, panic, betrayal. Every server became its own story. And since the graphics were simple, the game could focus completely on gameplay instead of realism. Cars flipped constantly, guns felt awkward, physics made zero sense sometimes. But instead of ruining the experience, it made the game funnier. Unturned had this perfect mix of tension and stupidity that no other survival game really captured. There was a feeling Unturned gave you that honestly, it's pretty hard to explain unless you played it. The map would feel completely empty one second and terrifying the next. You'd be walking through some random town with almost no gear, hearing zombies in the distance, checking every building for food, and then suddenly you hear gunshots and instantly everything changes. Because in Unturned, every player interaction felt important. You never knew if someone was friendly, completely insane, or about to rob you for literally no reason. And since the game looked so simple, your imagination kind of filled in the gaps. A military base actually felt dangerous. A random flashlight at night felt creepy. Even hearing a car engine in the distance could make your heart start racing. That's something a lot of survival games struggle to recreate. Not realism, atmosphere. Unturned created tension using almost nothing. Blocky graphics, simple sounds, basic mechanics, but somehow the experience felt real anyway. And honestly, that weird contrast is what made the game memorable. Because one second the game felt genuinely intense, and the next second your friend crashes a car into a tree and everyone dies instantly. That balance between suspense and complete stupidity became Unturned's identity. Most indie survival games die when the hype dies. Unturned didn't, because the community basically turned it into a platform. There were military roleplay servers, hardcore survival servers, creative servers, zombie apocalypse RP servers, completely modded experience that barely even resembled the original game. The Steam Workshop carried this game for years, and that's something people underestimate. A game lasts way longer when players are allowed to shape it themselves. Every server felt different, every map had its own culture, and every player remembers some completely random moment that still sticks in their head years later. That's the sign of a genuinely impactful multiplayer game. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Me and my brother playing Unturned on two barely working computers just good enough to run Unturned. Surviving through the night, meet up with the guy, no clue if he's friendly or not, and he pulls out a chainsaw and tries to rob us. Robs my brother completely for everything he has. I pulled out a gun and a gunfight ensued. I did not survive. But that's what made it so perfect. You never knew what was gonna happen. Even now, years later, people still reinstall Unturned. Not because it's the best survival game ever made, but because it reminds people of a specific era of gaming. Late night Discord calls, watching YouTube while grinding loot, meeting random people online before every multiplayer game became super competitive. Unturned feels like internet nostalgia, a time when games didn't need battle passes, ranked systems, or billion-dollar budgets to become memorable. It was just a weird, free zombie game on Steam, and somehow, that was enough. A lot of games try way too hard to become timeless. Unturned never really tried to be, and maybe that's exactly why it lasted. Because underneath the blocky graphics and chaos, there was something genuinely special about it. Not perfection, just personality. And honestly, that's what people remember most.
Słuchaj, drogi stalker.